have come before your board and had a location, but I've been managing for over 8 years, and as long as I've been managing, we've never had police called to the tent.
And Councilman, based on the attendees that we have at this point in time, it doesn't appear that neither one is online.
Okay.
Any other further questions from the council? Councilman Roberts?
I have a question. I have no problem with this particular petition. I have a concern overall based on numerous complaints that I am receiving, including I'm complaining to myself because I also hear the incessant fireworks noise that goes on. I'm saying dozens of people have contacted me. I know mayor's office, I talked to them. They're getting complaints. I see Councilman Cahoon nodding. Maybe he'll have something to add. I don't understand. I mean, a backyard sparklers, minor fireworks are okay, but what I'm personally hearing and what people are complaining to me about are these things that sound like little bombs that are going off all hours of the night, even during the day. And I think it's getting out of hand. And we've got to address this issue. And one thing that I've learned, I think I maybe knew this before, but since being on the council, many residents have pets, have dogs. And this is creates, might sound like a silly or frivolous thing to say, but the first thing people say when they call me to complain or email is that they fear for their dogs and pets who, for some reason, dogs and fireworks don't get along. I see it in my own home with a small dog we recently got, that as soon as they start going off in the neighborhood, the dog starts barking and all the dogs in the neighborhood start barking. And I don't get the point to this. It seems like no pattern. There's incessant fireworks noise. And when I asked the mayor about it and talked to some in the police department, they agreed that it would work with me and anybody else in the council who wanted to join in on putting something together. Or maybe we have a window of time, a couple of weeks before July 4th and after, maybe to allow it, but up to a certain hour. And why is it necessary to have these mini bombs going off in the city April, May, June, sometimes even in the winter?
It is unfortunate, and I can respect.
So I know, the vendor, they can't control that. And I know, Ms. Corsack can't control that, but I don't know that I'm prepared to vote approval to keep allowing the sale within our city of fireworks. And let me just finish one other thing, and I'll let you go, Melissa. I know the police constantly are getting complaints, and they run out, they go to a home, and they're trying to deal with it. So I know they need something in writing, which we're not going to have done for now, for this 4th of July, but this is becoming a year-round problem. And I promised constituents I would raise this issue, and tonight this opens the door to start the conversation. Thank you.
Sure, and I respect the position of your community members, animals, the elderly. Where we're coming from is we sell all Rhode Island legal. They're ground-based fireworks. They're sparkle items. There are no repeaters. That means they do not go in the air. They do not explode. They're not commercial fireworks. We're not allowed to sell that. It's just against the law. The fireworks that you're complaining about in other towns as well are having the same issues is residents are going to New Hampshire and down south. They're buying these commercial fireworks, and then they're coming home and they're getting them buy one, get one free in brick and mortar stores. And then they'll come up to Rhode Island and they'll get double their money back. And they're all illegal fireworks that do repeat, repel, and they're commercial grade fireworks, which we do not sell at all in any of our locations. We do all strictly legal by the fire marshal of the state of Rhode Island for our fireworks. So our fireworks don't make banging sounds. They don't make exploding sounds. They're more of a show of colors, and they'll crack, they'll sparkle, but they will not explode. They will not go in the air. They stay on the ground, and that's what we sell.
Councilman, I hear your concerns, and not that I have received any phone calls from anyone, but I hear and see the things that people are saying primarily on social media about the noise. But that is a state law, first and foremost, that we're not allowed to sell those type of fireworks in the state of Rhode Island. But secondly, how do you police that? I have a problem in Ward 1 where we have an individual who lights off a cannon, believe it or not, lights off a cannon. And every so often, person comes out and lights it off. Nobody knows exactly when they're going to do it. It's not every weekend. It's not once a week. It's not every other day. It's randomly. The problem is how do you police that? And this has been an ongoing issue in Ward 1 from people that I heard from for a few years now. But no one seems to know who that individual is. But more importantly, how do you catch someone lighting off a firework randomly? It's very tough to police, and I don't know. And I hear the concerns that people have with respect to their dogs and their animal. My dog was that way last year. This year, fortunately, she's much better with them. But it's it's a hard pill to swallow when it comes time to policing that type of fireworks when they're outlawed and banned in the state as it is. But as the applicant said, they're going cross-border. They're purchasing these fireworks, and they're lighting them off wherever they may be, whether it's in their backyard, their street, or in a friend's or neighbor's yard. So it's a very difficult, daunting task to handle, to be quite honest with you, the way I feel.
So to both those points, and I have received a number of complaints, Mr. Rodericks, to the point where I was considering voting no against both the licenses coming up for our approval tonight. However, I thought through it, and I thought that that's not fair to either of these vendors who are operating within the law and are selling their products within the law and have never had any issues doing so within the city. What I asked the clerk to do was for our very next docket, given that this one was fairly loaded, was to add for discussion exactly this item so that maybe we can find the right way to approach it. I was thinking that perhaps we could do that by way of an ordinance that we might put in place restricting the use and timing of use during the year. But we can approach that then. So I thought that was the right way to handle this, not to try to do it through the license, but that's me.
Yeah, I would, after hearing Ms. Corsack's explanation that I take her word that she is not selling the type that make these noises we're hearing in the community, and they're coming from out of state. So I don't want to be in a position of hurting a local business person either. And as I said earlier, there is, and maybe we can work on it together, where the mayor agreed and the deputy police chief agreed to start working on something like an ordinance which limits the time, certain weeks of the year. And so I guess that's the right direction to go. I would concur.
If I can add to that, if I can just add to that. So both Councilman Rodericks and Cahoon have good points. From a law enforcement perspective, 20 years, I can tell you that it is very difficult to enforce that. We show up after the fact, right? We don't show up before they light the firework. So, and to my point as to has there been any complaints to these locations, what I'm trying to get at is, has there been any spot checks, right? Because I know the communities and the one that I serve, also we do spot checks. The fire department goes out and to see if there's any violations as far as the type of fireworks being sold. I know we can't control the over-the-border purchases and sales, but at least we can control, and regulate, these licenses here in East Providence. So I don't know if moving forward, if that would be something that, these licenses that can be spot checked for those type of illegal fireworks, if they're being sold. So that's what I was asking for as far as, has there been any complaints in the past from the police department? And Mr. Marcello, would that be a fire department function? We do have city fire marshals, correct? That can do spot inspections.
Yes.
Is that something that can be requested, or would that be in violation of the licensee's licenses or whatnot, or some type of?
All right, would I be able to speak?
Sure, please.
Thank you. We have the fire marshal come out on opening day after we have our delivery come, and the clerk sets up all the product on the tables, and they make sure that we have a certain amount of gram or cake allowed in the tent, and then the rest goes in the storage unit. We also welcome our fire marshal to come in the unit, turn his flashlight on. He can look around, look at our stuff, check our boxing. They check our wicks. They're very thorough, and we've had them stop by maybe 2 times per season, but we're open to them coming every day because we are not selling these type of fireworks, and we want you guys to be comfortable with us being in your town. So they do come, but if you wanted them to come more, we're not opposed to it.
All right. With that being said, any other questions from the council? Oh, okay. Madam Clerk, may we go with a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Council President.
We need a motion.
We need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I move to approve the license, or the hawker's license.
Okay, Councilman Cahoon, move to approve the hawker's license. Would anyone like to second that motion?
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Morado. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye. Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, it is
Thank you, Mrs. Corsa.
the next item is also another license not requiring public hearing for a hawker's license. And this is New England Novelty, Keith Lambert. The location would be 141 Newport Avenue in Rumford, 02916.
Is this for the same thing, fireworks?
Same thing.
Mr. Lambert? Is he on?
I don't.
Or are you speaking on behalf of him, Ms. Corsack?
No, it's a different company.
Okay.
So Melissa is not. I don't see him on.
Okay. Well, again, it's the same situation that we have here. Madam Clerk, all the paperwork been filed with you?
The paperwork has been filed. The only difference between this and Mr. Solicitor, I don't know if I need your assistance on this one. This location is the old Uncle Tony's building, and he was looking to sell the fireworks in the building rather than outside. So where Ms. Corsack and her company would be in a tent outside, this is inside Uncle Tony's. If just as a point of reference, last year, this is where Phantom Fireworks was before they came before the council.
I was going to say we had other fireworks companies that were in brick and mortars that came into the city.
He would still be subject to the same inspection requirements. It's probably not more stringent than the tent people because he's inside.
Okay. With that being said, would anyone like to make a motion?
I make a motion for approval.
Okay. That's Councilman Morano makes a motion for approval for New England Novelty. Would anyone like to second that motion?
I'll second.
All right. We have a second motion by Councilman Cahoon. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Yes, Council President. Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
All right. Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is public comment.
Do we have anyone that signed up for public comment prior to the meeting?
Not ahead of time. No, I have no requests.
Okay. We're going to keep it at that they sign up prior to the meeting and not during the meeting. All right. With that being said, proceed to council communications.
Nothing listed for council communications this meeting.
Okay, we'll take that off the list and we'll continue on to business.
The next item under continued business is net metering credit discussion by Green Development. And this is in relation to the docket item of the resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a 1-year agreement with Green Energy Development, LLC, regarding renewable energy savings.
So before we proceed with this one, because if I'm not mistaken, this is a presentation. Is there anything on the docket that should or needs to be moved up prior to this presentation so those individuals can be removed from the meeting? Or is there any other resolution that we have on the docket at this point in time that needs to be discussed?
You have the,
I know
what are we
Council,
waiting for?
I know Councilwoman Souza is a sponsor of this. Should we proceed with other ones and wait for her to come on before we introduce this?
Well, you, Council President, but this part of the meeting was reserved for a presentation, question and answer session with the councils based upon the concerns that the council raised last meeting, and then you're going to be actually voting on the resolution authorizing the mayor.
Right, but if I'm not mistaken, it was going to be a presentation on this.
I think a short presentation and a short question and answer period.
Okay, so I mean, Councilwoman Souza isn't here, and it's her docket item. You want to proceed at this point in time with this item, or do you want to give her a few minutes to come on to join this meeting, or discussion, I should say, and then once she does, we could proceed back to this, or?
It's up to you. It doesn't matter.
Well, it's up to the council. How would the council like to proceed with this?
I'm okay with taking a couple more items for the time being, and we'll see what happens.
In favor of that.
Okay, so if that's, given that the case, let's move to the next item, Madam Clerk, and then as soon as Councilwoman Souza joins in, we'll flip right over to the net metering.
Okay. The next item, skipping over continued business, is rolling into new business. The first item is Mayor Communications, and the first item is Mayor's message of disapproval and veto of budget ordinance timeline, COVID-19 pandemic, as passed by the East Providence City Council on June 2nd, 2020, entitled An Ordinance and Amendment of Chapter 2 of the Revised Ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Administration.
May I see that you're on the line at this point in time? Would you like to join the discussion on this?
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, sir. I did send out the communication. I had the opportunity to speak with the individual council members about my concerns. It's delineated in the note. And I just want to reiterate for the public that the ordinance is a good ordinance. It's a good government ordinance that gives us more time to get the budget up and going. Unfortunately, what was left out of it, and I think in discussion with some of the council people, they have a good resolution for it, was a provision where under extraordinary or unintended circumstances or unforeseen circumstances, we can come to the council and ask for additional time. Right now, we're dealing with a budget situation due to the pandemic that we're dealing with, the COVID-19 pandemic. The state has indicated that they're not going to have a budget passed as they usually would in July. They're talking about sometime in August. So that doesn't give us the numbers we need to put together our budget. So it's clearly, I don't want to waste your time by putting together a budget without the actual true numbers that we're going to be working with. So in conversation with the council members, I think everyone pretty much was on board with this having this unintended omission. But it's definitely going to be a much better ordinance once we add some language to it that allows for me or any future mayor to come to the council and ask for additional time.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further discussion on this? If not,
I would just add, Mr. President, I mean, I think it makes common sense. Also, the school department isn't going to have they're not going to have their numbers readily available either. So it's a dominoes effect. State doesn't know what they're getting from the feds. We don't know what we're getting from the state. School doesn't know what they're going to get from us. They're dealing with layoffs, a lot of things going on. So I think this calls for a supermajority of the council to approve any extension. So this is not the result, in my opinion, of any dispute here. I think we're all on the same page, and it makes sense for the budget process.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Mr. President, just because this is a communication related to a veto, I would ask that the council make a motion that you accept the mayor's communication A1 and A2 and place it on file.
Mr. President, so moved.
Okay. So we have a motion by Councilman Cahoon. Would anyone like to second that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, we had second, motion by Councilman Cahoon, seconded by Councilman Morado. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye, thank you. Next item, please.
Next item under Mayor Communications is notice of mayor's signature on various ordinances.
Will the mayor be speaking on behalf of that, or is he?
No, Mr. President, just wanted to send a communication in writing. I think it's a good process going forward that we set a communication just to advise the council of the actions taken.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mayor. Next item, please.
Next item is reports of other city officials, city solicitor report, claims committee report. Mike Marcello.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of the City Council, as you know, the City Council met as a claims committee in executive session prior to the start of this meeting. The first claim was a claim of Alex Mazika related to a sewer pipe backup claim in the amount of $970, which was approved by the claims committee for a payment. The second issue on the docket was a sewer charge abatement for Kayleen Rami in the amount of $391.37, which was also approved unanimously by the City Council. That concludes my claims report.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. With that being said, we'll move right along. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Yes, Council President. Next item is recommendation from the Planning Board to the City Council. This is a land transfer of 2.9 acre parcel and 600-foot fishing pier located at map 109, block 1, parcel 1. The owner is Kettle Point LLC, and this will be spoken on, I believe it's Bill Fazioli.
Mr. Fazioli, are you present at this time? I do see you there. I'm not sure if you're on mute or not, but we can't hear you if you're speaking.
Okay, Bill, you should be good.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I'm co-hosting a Conservation Commission meeting at the same time, so I can't be in two places at one time. So I'm hopefully I'm not too distracted, but thank you for the opportunity to talk tonight. There was a number of materials provided in your packet. I was hoping just to summarize the highlights and then just answer some questions that the council might have regarding the land transfer of this parcel to the city. Briefly, it's a it was really contemplated to be given over to the city going back to 2013 when the Kettle Point project was first envisioned. And it really is an essential part of the Waterfront Commission to allow public access to areas that were prohibited prior. And this is a perfect example. Prior to Kettle Point, that was, as we know it now, is a oil tank storage facility for, 50, 60 years. And it was fenced off and closed to the public. But since the opening of Kettle Point in 2017, we have full public access to the facility, and in particular, this new pier that's been open now for a year. It's a 600-foot linear pier that offers opportunities for the residents to fish and to watch the sunset and to just, relax off the bike path. It was built at the expense of the developer. And again, it's being turned over to the city to become a park. The city will maintain the property. As part of the agreement, the city will receive $15,000 in funds from Churchill and Banks to set up a reserve fund to provide for annual maintenance of the site. I spoke to the Department of Public Works. He anticipates very modest maintenance costs for this property. Really, it's a passive recreation park. Just routine lawn maintenance, cutting grass and trimming, and doing some cleanup. Along with that, though, the city will be responsible for maintaining environmental monitoring of the site. That'll cost $2,500 a year. We'll be using Sage Engineering to make sure that the property stays within compliance from DEM guidelines from an environmental point of view. In addition, Churchill and Banks will be, before the transfer is complete, we'll be installing a sign at the park entrance. We'll be installing bike racks and benches at the park entrance, and a fence will be also retained there so we can control access to the property. Right now, Churchill and Banks, through their goodwill, has offered the public to use the facility while it's still in their ownership and under their liability. But this was always the plan, was to convert it to a city park so we could make it part of the city recreational, parks program, and we're very excited about that. There's a number of conditions we outlined that we recommend to the city council include in the draft agreement with Churchill and Banks regarding, latest inspection of the pier and environmental remediation that continues, the transfer of $15,000 for an escrow fund, and so on. So I'll just answer any questions that the council might have on this transfer.
The pleasure of the council. Anyone have any questions? I have one just quick question. Sage Engineering, the $2,500 a year, is that coming from the 15,000? Or is that just coming from is it just, and this is a general question.
Yeah, it could come from the city's operating budget, or it could come from the 15,000, either way, depending on when we put our budget together.
Okay. I recall conversations in the past about having public access over there, so that's a very good thing. Any other questions? Councilman Rodericks.
I just would add that reading the report is unanimous vote of the Waterfront Commission. Everyone's on the same page. All the reports are positive. More public access and public recreation is a win-win for us. So I would be supporting this.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from the council? Mr. Solicitor.
Oh, this is just on the agenda tonight for to accept the recommendation of the planning board. I wanted to get the council's sense of whether or not they're going to accept that. So it looks like you will, or at least seems to be in favor of accepting it. So I'll prepare a resolution for full acceptance by the council in the proper deed and agreement. For the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. If there's no further questions at this point in time, we'd like to move to the next item. Madam Clerk.
Yep. The next item is tourism escrow account opportunity, discussion only. This is also Bill Fazioli.
Thank you again. And I also have, I don't know if Laura McNamara is one of the participants. We'd like to have her available for some background, but she's been very active in this, in the history of this issue. Since 2009, the city has not been part of an active regional tourism bureau. We were associated with the East Bay Tourism Bureau, which has disbanded since 2009. So the city really hasn't been actively promoting tourism in the city from a cultural point of view, history point of view, and things of that nature. So we've missed out on almost 11 years now of being part of a regional tourism bureau. Fortunately, the funds that accrue to the city that are collected from the hotel tax, because of legislation that Laura was instrumental in putting together in 2009, the city didn't lose that money. It's been set aside in an escrow account, but it's being held by the Department of Revenue. At this time, is over $430,000 available that could be used for this. It could be allocated to the city once we decide to join a tourism bureau. Our recommendation is that we'll be working with the Northern Rhode Island Blackstone Valley Tourism Bureau. There's a lot of history between us and that bureau. We've done some work with them over the years, and we feel that they're a good fit. From what we understand, a resolution is required by the city council and eventually some state legislation that would amend the state law allowing East Providence to join the Northern Rhode Island Blackstone Valley Tourism Bureau, and at which point we will be able to direct the use of that funds. The funds go through the Tourism Bureau, but through a memorandum of understanding or an agreement, we'll be deciding how to allocate those funds and how to, we'll be developing a budget to, develop a website, come up with a branding idea, do some social media advertising to help tourism and our local businesses in the community. So if I could allow Laura to interject if there's anything else I missed, but it's been going on 11 years now, and we'd like to finally remedy the situation and put that money to work.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Bill's correct. This goes back to 2009 when we disbanded the East Bay Tourism Council, which used to include Barrington, Bristol, and Warren, and East Providence. And I was on the Tourism Council since the beginning in 1999. And when we split, there was a decision made that Bristol, Warren, and Barrington were going to go down to the Newport County Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they wanted East Providence to go down there. And I didn't think that was a good fit, knowing that we'd probably get lost in the Newport tourism aspect of it. And then at the time, there was also the Providence and Warwick Convention and Visitors Bureau was interested in us. And again, that was another large tourism council, and it was a mad rush to get all this taken care of and decide where East Providence was going to go. And at that time, I thought, we don't need to go anywhere. at this time. Let's just put that money aside, and then when things settle down, we can take another look at it. And little did we know, in 2009 and right around that time, the economic recession was happening, and there was a lot of turmoil going on. So that money has just been sitting there accruing all this time.
Oh, I got a question on that.
Sure.
Go ahead, Councilman.
So you're saying that there's $200,000 sitting in a tourist bureau account?
Actually, it's $430,000, and it's held by the Department of Revenue by the state of Rhode Island.
So it's our money, but it's being held by the state?
Yes, and the money can be used for East Providence tourism benefits, but it has to be used. It has to be directed through a regional tourism bureau. It doesn't come directly to the city. It has to go to a third-party tourism bureau. That's how the legislation's written, and through a memorandum of understanding or some sort of agreement we'll have with them, we'll be able to direct and budget how that money's used.
How did that money get accumulated? How did it get funded?
It is a residual of the hotel tax. The city has one hotel, I believe, one hotel in the city, and maybe a couple of small motels. So there's a portion of the hotel tax that goes directly for this purpose, for local cities to use for local tourism.
Did any other council member ever hear of this? Because it's the first time I've ever heard of an account such as this one.
No, that's the first that I'm hearing of it as well.
You know, when we did the budget process, we continuously for any accounts, and we get a drip at a time. And now here's, months later, and we're finding out about another account. It just fascinates me. It really does. And no fault of yours, Bill or Laura, but it just fascinates me. So besides using this $400K for tourist advertisement purposes, can it be used for anything else related to business?
No. By legislation, it is only available to any kind of a tourism aspect, and it has to be in one of the 6 tourism councils in Rhode Island. So it's a matter of which tourism council is going to house East Providence, and we feel that Blackstone Valley is the best fit.
So by passing a resolution, we will essentially be unlocking that money that's been frozen.
That's one of the first steps, Councilman. Then, there's some state legislation that our representatives are working on, because the state legislation has to be enacted, hopefully sometime this summer, that will make East Providence part of the Northern Rhode Island Bureau. They have to take an action on their part to accept us. And again, this is not city tax revenue. This is revenue generated from the hotel tax. I just learned about this in January of this year. So we originally wanted to get it in front of the council a lot sooner, but unfortunately, the COVID situation kind of, put a lot of things on hold. And we're glad we're here talking about it now, but it can't really support city operations or municipal operations. It has to support, it's meant to support the local tourism and local businesses in the community.
Mr. Fazioli, if I'm not mistaken, we don't carry this amount on our books though, right?
No. This is through the state. So, Councilman, this isn't anything we have on our books as a line item. Yeah, it never comes to the city. It goes directly to the tourism bureau that we choose to work with, and it's never accounted for in our budget or our accounting system. But we were able to, with a memorandum of understanding, at least with the money that's been accumulated, we have ideas on how we want to use that money to, start a brand or, start with some marketing and social media campaigns to promote a lot of positive things in the city that are taking place.
President, quick question, Laura and Bill, is it a possibility that we could be our own tourism area? And I mean, I agree we don't identify with the Newport Council, but I'm not so sure that a lot of us really consider us Blackstone Valley either, where we're kind of in a unique position. The East Bay is kind of falling apart. Normally we'd be in East Bay, but can we be just East Providence?
No, we can't. And interesting that you mentioned that. That was what I was up against in 2009. I wanted East Providence to be by itself. And we were hit by so many other of the tourism councils saying, you can't do that. You have to play with the rest of us. There's going to be 6 councils. You have to choose a council. And it requires legislation. It requires political support. Ideally, yeah, East Providence probably could be on its own, but then you would have the other cities and towns trying to lead their councils as well. It's a lot of money, and these tourism councils want to hold on to it. So no, East Providence would not be able to do it on its own.
But that 400,000 plus, whatever that number is, that's just for us, right?
That's
Or is
correct.
that-
Yes.
Okay.
That's the money accumulated that's been set aside specifically for East Providence. And, obviously before we formally join one of the bureaus, we're going to map out exactly how we expect that money to be allocated for East Providence, for the benefit of East Providence's businesses and tourism efforts.
Is Providence part of Blackstone Valley,
No,
or where are
no,
they?
I think they're with themselves, and Providence and Warwick is one convention bureau. Is that right,
That's
Laura?
correct. Yeah, the Providence Convention Visitors Bureau. And Jean Boyle and I at the time had talked to them. They were wooing us as well. Newport came up and had a conversation many times trying to get us down there as well. It looks like a lot of money right now, but when you average it out over the years, that's where it comes from. So it's a lump sum right now, but we're not going to get $400,000 every year.
I'm just wondering, with our emphasis on our waterfront, and right across the water with Providence's waterfront, India Point Park, Bold Point Park, we're so close. And I'm sure you know much more about this than I do, but I'm wondering, wouldn't that be a fit, the Providence Warwick Bureau, with our shared waterfront?
I would welcome a conversation with you and anybody else who wants to talk about it, and I can give you all that I had gone through and what that would mean. And I don't think now is the time to have that in-depth conversation, but there's reasons why that wouldn't be a good fit.
Okay.
And there is a lot of history with us in the Blackstone Valley, Councilman. They have been sponsoring the riverboat tours out of Al's Marina there for a number of years on the Riverboat Explorer that feature the East Providence waterfront. They've been working very actively with our historical society for a number of years, well before any of this was an issue. And there is actually a connection with Blackstone Valley through East Providence, up through Rumford, going down to the area at Washamoket, which has a rich Native American history that really falls into a lot of what is very common in Blackstone Valley. So
sounds good.
think, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
President, the mayor was wondering if he could contribute to the conversation.
sure.
I just want to reiterate that we just learned, when we learned of this money in January, this is when we started trying to discuss how we were going to handle the situation. And of course, COVID-19 came around and it kind of derailed a lot of the things that we're trying to do. However, I know that Bill Fazioli has been working on legislation that would allocate this money for our use, and specifically in the language that Representative Amori has been working hand in hand with us. Specifically in the language, it says that the existing amount of money that's been collected would go to the Blackstone Valley Tourism Council for exclusive use of tourism activity in the city of East Providence. So that's an important piece of that legislation that should it pass, it's going to be codified in state law. In addition, we will, of course, be entering into a memorandum of agreement for future monies that come in into the fund generated in East Providence that would be used for the promotion of tourism in East Providence. So I want to thank Laura. Actually, this came to our attention, I believe, through Laura and Bill, and we were pleasantly surprised to see that we had $400,000 being held by the state on our behalf, and we just want to get that money working for the people of East Providence.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fazioli. Thank you, Ms. McNamara and Mayor, for that explanation.
Thank you.
Look forward to that resolution coming up. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Yes, Council President. The next item is under resolutions, and the first resolution is a resolution proposing an amendment to the city charter regarding charter commissions, sponsored by Councilman Morato, Councilman Suzak, and Councilman Cahoon.
Any of you like to take the lead on this at this time?
The only change and it's really a house cleaning issue. And I'll let Mr. Marcello discuss that, is where this would actually, if passed by the voters in November, where it would be placed in the charter itself. And Mr. Marcello, if you can just explain that. It's just a house cleaning issue.
As originally proposed, this was put in the beginning of the town charter, under city charter, under basic provisions under Article 1. However, if you look at the charter, I believe it really should be placed in Article 13, which is general provisions, and where the amendment process, the current amendment process, is spoken of. So there's a reserve section of, I think it's section, well, it's listed on the amendment there that I have before you. I think it's section 13-14 that we're going to put that in. So again, there's just a technical amendment and a couple other minor changes to the language that Councilman Morato has before him. So I would ask that when you pass this, you pass it as amended. And you can just talk about the, it's going to be put in section 13-18, and then there are just a few, on the second paragraph, there's a addition of the word S after elected seats. And the third paragraph, there's also added to an S on proposals. And there's also a comma that was added somewhere else. So this is a very technical amendment. I would ask that the resolution be passed with those technical amendments as stated.
I also want to add that I originally had planned on putting this on for the July 7th meeting with the hopes that we would have reconvene in person in life. That doesn't seem that way, and I really don't want to miss that deadline of August 4th in case we do run into some issues and some modifications. I think this is a good compromise with both the administration and what I've heard from my fellow council members. I think it's good. It's a good resolution for the city moving forward, for other councils to have this tool. It wouldn't benefit us while we're sitting and finishing this term. And I also want to add that ultimately, if this is passed tonight, and if it does make it to the ballot, it's ultimately the residents that will decide if this is something that they want on, the charter or not. So I understand that, it's an important piece of, it's an important resolution, one that, we should be done in public. But, we've had this discussion many, many times over. We've had plenty of opportunity. In fact, Madam Clerk, is anyone at the moment right now for public comment?
No, there hasn't been anybody, Councilman Morato.
And like I'll reiterate, it's going to be ultimately to the voters. So I'll leave it up to council. If not, I will make a motion for passage.
Passage as amended, Councilman.
Passage as amended.
So I'll second the motion to approve the passage as amended. I believe discussion is appropriate and allowed right now, Mr. Solicitor. I want to point out the fact that, to Councilman Morato's point, this resolution represents a discussion between the council and the mayor's administration as to what the best way forward is. Several folks contribute ideas into what this resolution would ultimately become. This is not an attempt by the council or any council member to introduce piecemeal changes to the charter and offer them to the public to vote on. This is a scenario by which the public is going to be very much involved in deciding what their foundational governmental document looks like for the city. It features, as well as elected officials, it also features appointments by both the council and the mayor. It makes provisions for situations whereby there aren't sufficient people who want to be on the council on the commission by way of election. So it's comprehensive. And anybody who wants to get involved with framing their local government, helping make changes, helping recommend changes to the council helping get changes onto a ballot for people to vote on, we'll have that opportunity going forward. I think that this is a very good piece of work. I want to thank Councilman Murata for taking the lead on it, for doing the research through both the, both of our city solicitor and our assistant city solicitor, and finding places where this works. I always advocate finding places where there are good ideas and taking their ideas and bringing them back here and finding out how we can tweak them and making them best for the city of East Providence. So this is very good work.
Councilman Morado, if you can, just give for the viewers a brief synopsis of what this resolution you're proposing with respect to this resolution, just so they understand it for those who don't have a copy of the resolution with them.
Actually, it's very brief. Let me just read what this would entail. So, if this was to pass in this November election, since our city charter, the previous charter commission did a great job. There were some things that we weren't able to get to, and something that they were unforeseen. So, what this allows future councils to do and administrations is look at the charter every 8 years and say, well, we need to tweak this or we need to add that. It's, like with every other document, constitution, and with every municipality charter. So if this was to pass, in starting with the 2022 election and the state general election every 8 years, someone has a TV on in the background and it's echoing through.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, it's getting a little difficult to hear. Someone has something going in the background here.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't hear it. Is it? I'll mute mine. I don't have TV on, but
no, someone turn it off. It's good now.
Okay.
So every 8 years and so on, it should be a nonpartisan election of the Charter Commission. Said Charter Commission shall consist of 9 members. 2 shall be appointed by the mayor. 2 shall be appointed by the city council, and 5 elected. 1 elected from each ward, and 1 elected at large. The Charter Commission shall choose the chairperson of the Charter Commission by simple majority vote. If any member appointed by the mayor or city council resigns, dies, or is otherwise ineligible to complete the term of office, their replacement should be made by the original appointing authority. If more than 5 members are elected, or if the elected members resign, dies, or otherwise ineligible to complete the term of office, the vacant elected seat should be appointed by the majority vote of the city council. It goes on to explain the how many times, how the frequency of the meetings and so on. And I like this language, and I took some of this language from the what Tiverton has in their charter. And what it does is it gives the opportunity for the average citizen to want to join this charter commission when it comes up every 8 years. And but in addition to that, I mean, we have a couple of fail safes. We have the 2 appointed by the council, 2 appointed by the mayor. I just think it's a good, well-rounded resolution and tool to put into our charter. So, and I think Councilman Cahoon for those kind
Jeff for the cat.
There's a lot of work. And someone's watching out for a cat right now.
That's me. Thank you, Councilman. So just for clarification on that, appreciate that. Any questions from the council at this point in time before we proceed to a vote? Or is this open for public comment, Madam Clerk? Am I muted?
Council
No,
President, there is someone on the question and answer, Miss Julie Silver.
Is it open for public comment?
You can, yes. This is a charter amendment. It would be worthy of public comment.
Okay, very good. We'll let that question through, please.
Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and just.
Is she on?
Yeah, I'm just going to let Julie talk really quick. It looks like her question was answered, but I just want to make sure and hear that from her. Julie, you're on.
Silva, would you like to speak on behalf of your question?
Oh, Julie's on. Okay, Julie, you're on if you'd like to speak.
Hi. My question was actually answered when Councilman Murado read the resolution. I was able to get a grasp of what was being said. I was just concerned because it was originally said that public comment and public input would be on July, at the July meeting, July 7th meeting. And then when it said it wasn't, I was getting a little concerned. But once I heard the resolution and I see where you're trying to go with this, it doesn't make sense. And that's why I said my question was answered, but I thank you for acknowledging it.
So let me ask you, do we have this in writing somewhere that for this to be on for the July 7th meeting and public comment will be at that point in time?
I believe the council did initially continue the initial resolution to July 15th. In the interim, we've amended the resolution, but you know, even on July 7th, we still have plenty of time to get this onto the ballot if it passes. So if you want to have more, you know, more official public comment.
No, my question, or more importantly, my concern would be at this point in time, because it became public record, saying that this discussion will be held on that 7th. Are we held to that date, as opposed to voting on it this evening? Or can we just proceed with our vote?
You know, you did state as a body that you're going to put it on for the July 7th meeting for public comment. I believe, Madam Clerk, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's what the original.
I had originally stated that I was going to put it on for vote on July 7th, not for comment.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Things changed and been re-advertised to this meeting.
Oh, well, there we go then. That answers my question. If it's been re-advertised for this meeting here, then I would think that we could proceed with a vote this evening.
Just to be clear, I don't believe this, and I'm not to be difficult, but this was not advertised. This was just posted as part of the regular agenda. This was not an advertisement.
It's because it's a resolution.
No.
It wasn't advertised.
Yeah, and what the resolutions that we were discussing at the time that we said we would continue until, or we would discuss on July 7th, were different from this resolution. Those were individual resolutions to change parts of the charter or propose charter changes for the ballot. They were very specific things.
Okay. So that we could proceed with a vote at this meeting at this time. I just want to make sure that it's not confusing to the public, that those who are out there read it differently or thought that we were going to be voting and having this discussion on July 7th as opposed to this evening. But with that being said, any further questions from the council before we proceed with a vote? Councilman Murado, would you like to form that in a motion to a vote?
I'll make a motion to put this forward for a vote as amended.
With the technical amendments?
Correct.
If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Solicitor?
Correct.
Okay, so we have a motion. So we have a motion on the floor at this point in time from Councilman Murado with technical amendments.
I thought he already made the motion. I already seconded.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, the motion was by Councilman Murado and Councilman Cahoon seconded.
Okay, let's proceed with a vote then, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Councilman Cahoon?
Aye.
Councilman Murado?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick?
Aye.
And Council President Brito?
Aye, thank you. Next item.
Next item is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a one-year agreement with Green Energy Development, LLC regarding renewable energy savings, sponsored by Councilwoman Souza. Council President, I just wanted to share with you that Councilwoman Souza did go ahead and text me and say that she's likely to work past 8 p.m. With her job, so she may not be able to make it. And she did ask to go ahead with the resolution and presentation. Let's wait for her.
All right. So at this point in time, at the pleasure of the council, we would like to resume back to the net meeting presentation. And we do have some folks here waiting on that. So if we could proceed with that, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Green Development LLC, you are on.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having us back. Just should we do introductions in the room just to clarify? So from Green Development in our conference room here, we have myself. I'm Hannah Marini. I'm the Director of Business Development.
Hi, Matt Sullivan, Business Development Analyst. John McCauley, Director of Sales.
Steve Grusini, Corporate Counsel.
So we have a very brief presentation I'm not sure if I'm actually able to share my screen.
Let me try to do that for you, Hannah. Hold on just a second. I bet I can do that. Hold on. Oh, wait, just give me 1 second. We can get that for you. Share. Okay, so Hannah, I'm just going to go ahead and move you to a panelist. Once you're moved to a panelist, you can share your screen now. So you should be able to do that now.
So, Madam Clerk, just for the record, before we proceed, that this is under continued business, net media and credit discussion by Green Development, and then we're going to move right into, or this is all tied into the resolution as well. So, as opposed, we'll just kill two birds with one stone here.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Okay.
All right, very good.
Hannah, anytime you can go ahead and share. You should be able to do the. You should be able to share now. So, you're good.
Okay. Can you hear me also?
Yes.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
There we go.
Great. So we have a very brief presentation prepared for you this evening, and it's very, very basic. What we were hoping to do is just for some of the newer council members, just do a little very brief introduction about who Green Development is, what we've accomplished in Rhode Island, and essentially, you know, what we're able to offer the city of East Providence. Very brief. We wanted to save the majority of our time as a real follow-up discussion from the last council meeting. Since the last meeting, we've worked to address a lot of the concerns that were raised both through the city's special counsel and through members of the council at the last meeting. So we wanted to just make sure that those items have been received and effectively digested by everyone on the council, and then open that up for any follow-up questions that that may have resulted from that additional information that we provided you with. So if that sounds good, I will, I'll just go through this brief slide deck. A little bit of a delay. So again, I'm just going to talk a little bit about us as a company, a very high level picture of the net metering program in Rhode Island and how it works, the projects that we've developed to date, and a list of our current customers. One of the things that that really sets Green Development apart from other renewable energy companies in the same space in Rhode Island is that we're a truly vertically integrated company. So right here, under one roof, we do everything from working on leads. We design all of our projects in house. We have we have electrical engineering and civil engineering in house. We permit all the projects. We finance the projects. We have a full construction side of our company, so we physically build all the projects ourselves. And then after the fact, we actually operate and maintain all of the projects ourselves in-house. So what that means for our customers, like the city of East Providence, what that means for you is that you have continuity. So what we tell you here today, how things work, that comes from a place of both experience, and it comes from the fact that we're able to tell you we are involved with these projects, and we make sure that the quality and the customer service is there throughout the life cycle of the project. So virtual net metering in Rhode Island is a true savings program. It's not you're not purchasing power from us. You're not purchasing, you're not changing who you get your electricity from by any means. You are simply entering into a savings program that will allow you to be associated with a renewable energy project, and you'll receive savings on your bill. So a really simple way to look at this is essentially that you're buying a gift card at a discount, kind of like kind of like Groupon that was really popular a few years ago. You're paying a discounted price for a higher value. So in the example that we have here, if a grocery gift card is worth $10, you're essentially paying $7 for it, but you still get the full benefit of it. So the way that works for the city is that you're getting the full benefit of electricity, but you're receiving a savings on your bill. So it would be like paying, in your case, we're offering a 25% discount. So it would be like paying $7.50 for $10 worth of electricity. And you can use that savings towards all of your different electric accounts. It will show up on each one of your electric accounts. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
This map shows kind of our timeline for projects that we have developed, constructed, brought online, and continue to operate in the state of Rhode Island. It also includes projects that we are in construction on and will bring online this year as well. We have a wind turbine in North Kingstown. We have 15 megawatts of wind in Western Coventry. And 3 of those projects.
Are you sure you're going to lose that money? Can you give it to somebody?
6 of those 1.5 megawatt wind turbines are actively in the net metering program right now. We had 3 different solar projects in Richmond. 3 of those are actively in the net metering program. We have 21 megawatts of wind energy, 7 different wind turbines that we installed and still operate in Johnston, and 3 of those projects are in the net metering program. We have a solar project in Lincoln that's in the net metering program. And last year we brought on 3 different projects, smaller solar projects, and 2 of those are in the remote net metering program. And this year we anticipate bringing online 3 wind turbines in the city of Providence. And we also have quite a bit of solar coming online this year as well. And the projects coming on this year will be a mix of remote net metering and the other program, which sells power directly to National Grid. So those projects I just mentioned that are currently enrolled in the remote net metering program, the power goes to, these are our active net metering customers right now. So every single month, minus our logo down at the bottom, of course, but every single month we send renewable net metering credits from our assets to over 300 different electric accounts associated with this variety of customers. So we have, in Rhode Island, there's only a small list of entities that are eligible for the net metering program. And that's municipalities, academic institutions, nonprofit organizations, and quasi-publics, hospitals. Mm-hmm. So we have a few different cities and towns that we currently work with, nonprofits, housing organizations. So these are just the customers that we are currently delivering credits to. We also have several other contracts signed with public agencies, some public housing authorities that are coming. They will get their savings on the first projects that come online this year. So I'm happy to, that really concludes the formal part of my presentation. I wanted to just touch a little bit on just give a high level overview of some of the things that we have sent since the last meeting on June 2nd. So since the last meeting on June 2nd, and actually talk about the specifics. So we had we sent a proactive red line a week ago or so that actually addressed some of the specific contract items and provided amendments based on what we heard at the last council meeting. We also provided, we found the Baldwin report that Councilman Morado was referring to. We read it and we provided a summary based on what we learned from that report as well. We've also provided some interconnection status updates on our proposed projects to the special counsel. So it seems like it might be a good opportunity to open it up for additional questions, either stemming from what we've sent or any other items that could be a concern at this point.
Quick question that I have with respect to the Baldwin report. You said you have summarized that?
Yes.
And was a copy sent to the council?
A copy of our summary was sent to the special counsel. So essentially, I can give you a very brief summary now. So essentially the report specifically pertained to third-party electric supply for residential accounts. So this contract that we're entering into is completely separate from third-party supply. In fact, most cities and towns, including the city of Providence, East Providence, are already involved in a third-party supply agreement. This is savings on top of that. And I'd say the vast majority of our clients take advantage of both of those different savings programs. So that does not impact this agreement at all. It's completely separate. And the savings that we are speaking of for remote net metering credits legally can only pertain to those entities I mentioned earlier. They're only going to the city of East Providence accounts. They are not going to residential accounts at all. Their residential accounts are not allowed to receive remote net metering credits. So it was a very interesting read, but it is not relevant to this arrangement at all.
My gathering from that report, and Councilman Cahoon, Councilman Morado, you can probably further the discussion on this, was primarily more about residential, but more importantly about low economic residential areas in different parts of the state of Massachusetts, whether it's Springfield, Worcester, and places to that nature. That's what I pretty much got out of that. I don't know if you'd like to elaborate on that, Councilman Morado. That's what I got out of that Baldwin report.
Yeah, so I looked at the Baldwin report and I looked at this the study that was done in Massachusetts back in 2018. I don't have any questions of Green LLC. I think I have expressed my opinions in great detail at the previous council meeting and such. There's still some things that I'm not very happy with, and I find a little unsettling.
See, he's already made up his mind. He's not going to.
I've already made my point. I don't know who just mentioned that, but I don't have any further questions.
Any other questions from the council? Mr. Capizzo, would you like to expand upon the contract that the city is looking to sign off on?
Sure, Council President. Can you hear me?
I can.
Excellent. And good evening, Council President and other council members, Madam Clerk. Again, Christian Capizzo for the record. I was brought in as special counsel on behalf of the city at the request of Attorney Marcello and the mayor to review the net metering contract. It is a one-year agreement with Green, where the city will receive a 25% discount off the net metering credit rate. The agreement is 1 year from commercial operation date. What that means is it's 1 year from when Green is able to bring a renewable energy facility, for example, a solar facility, online. where the city can benefit from receiving the net metering credits. We protected the city whereby if Green is not able to bring an asset online within 1 year of signing the agreement with the city can terminate the agreement, or it can mutually agree with Green in writing to extend it for an additional year. The concern there being that the city would be stuck in agreement into perpetuity until Green brought a renewable energy facility online. The other points in the agreement, the city can, in an event default, if Green does not provide the necessary energy provided for an Exhibit A, it can be considered an event default and the city can terminate. So if it's not getting what it bargained for, the city can terminate. And the other provision that I highlighted for the city council, the mayor, and the solicitor is that the city does need to enter into a sublease agreement, and there were some concerns about the city's obligations and liabilities related to that. The Rhode Island PUC requires, and the statute requires, that a municipality under a net metering finance agreement or nonprofit or hospital or educational institution has a ownership or some type of control over the property where the renewable energy facility is located within Rhode Island. In order to comply with that, developers and the PUC require that the municipality that's receiving the benefits of the net metering credit enter into a sublease. We've protected the city, or I protected the city, by basically saying that the city does not assume any liabilities or obligations as it relates to the master lease agreement that Green has with the owner of the property where the facility is. And Councilman Cahoon raised an excellent point that the city does not want to be in multiple sublease agreements. So if this net metering agreement terminates, the sublease agreement terminates with it. There is a possibility that there could be multiple sublease agreements from different renewable energy facility assets from Green, where the city would benefit, let's say, from a percentage from a solar facility in West Greenwich and then a solar facility, say, somewhere else. So that would be the only time where Green, that the municipality would be in multiple sublease agreements. But at no time would the city assume any additional obligations or liabilities under the master lease agreement. It's only to show custody or control over the property through a sublease agreement. And the Rhode Island PUC has approved this type of structure between municipalities and renewable energy developers.
Well, let me ask you, Mr. Capizzo, is Green in a position now to deliver from any energy facility at this point in time? So if the city was to enter an agreement with Green Development tomorrow, are they in a position to enter an agreement within the next month?
So I will answer it, and then I'll have Green answer it. But that is a great question, and that is the basis of what of the negotiations, because certainly you don't want to enter into an agreement where there's no system online where the city can start immediately receiving renewable energy benefits. And in
addition to that, you're saying we have a 1 year period before they can enter. So in other words, if we enter an agreement when they become online with an energy facility another 8 months from now, that actual contract takes effect 8 months from now and not from the time or date the contract has been signed and initiated.
Correct. They have a year to come online. Once they come online, it's a year agreement from the date that they are able to achieve commercial operation. So what I will tell you is the renewable energy facility that they have designated in Exhibit A is in West Greenwich, and it's slotted to reach commercial operation December 2020 or January 2021 at the latest. Green is also informed, and they can elaborate on this. They may be able to have the city benefit from renewable energy credits from 2 additional assets that may become available sooner than the asset that's listed in the net metering credit agreement. And I can let Hannah provide the council information on that.
I can certainly do that. So, what was the first? There was the first part of this question. Well, I can answer this first. So, Exhibit A allows us allows us to swap projects to ensure that the city is getting savings as soon as possible. There is not available capacity on any of our operating projects right now, and that is simply because the projects cannot come online. They cannot be, financing cannot be closed on any of the projects until they are full. So that is not possible. However, this agreement, voting to allow this agreement to go forward, to enter into this one-year agreement, will assure the city, will ensure that the city is on the next available project. So we had listed a solar project in West Greenwich in the current draft contract, but it allows us to swap out projects. And I did mention to Christian earlier that we have 2 projects, smaller solar projects coming online in Rhode Island by the end of the year. And those projects could easily deliver credits to the city as well. So by having the signed agreement in place, it allows us to actually put your accounts, your electric accounts, onto the next available asset that comes online.
But right now, you said you have no capacity online at this point in time. Is that because the West facility just isn't capable, or you're just you're still under construction?
Right. So the project is under construction. The projects cannot come online until they are full, until all the power is designated to go somewhere. So that it would not be possible to bring the project online before having it full.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Before being full?
Having it full meaning all of the power produced from the facility going to designated electric accounts. So for us to have a project right now that had available capacity on it would have to mean that we've been operating a project that had a big gap on it, and that's not something that we do.
Mr. President, can I just chime in for a second? This is Mayor De Silva.
Yes.
Just for the history, and I'm sure the council is aware of it for the public, Green Energy had gone through an RFP before I was ever elected and before this council was ever in session, and they've been working with the city to work out some type of an agreement over some time. If we were to sign this agreement with the protections that have been put in place through Mr. Capizzo's negotiations with Green Energy on our behalf, we hired Mr. Capizzo to negotiate on our behalf. We stand to potentially be online with a new asset in December of 2020 of this year or January 2021, which would mean a savings to the taxpayers of approximately $250,000 annually. Okay, which would be
from December 2020 or January 2021, right?
Right. So we could be online, Mr. President, by the end of this year, which we're in June now. So you're talking about 6 months, right? We could be online within 6 to 7 months. Or if we don't sign on with them, we would start this whole process all over again, start a whole RFP process, start doing the vetting. It's going to take us another year and a half before we even find somebody that we'd be willing to sit down with. And it may just be that Green is the next company that comes up in the next RFP with the best options. Now, my concern is that I don't think, and Mr. Capizzo can speak to this, a one-year contract, a one-year deal like this with the option to renew for another year is very unique. And Mr. Capizzo can speak to this because he's been involved in negotiating this in the past. What they wanted originally was, I think, a 40-year deal. And a lot of these companies, they want these long-term deals. They want to lock you in for a long term. This and it's for financing purposes. But this particular deal, we feel, it protects the taxpayers and it gives us savings, real savings, within 6 to 7 months.
If I'm not mistaken, that was a 25-year deal. That was about 2 years ago with the previous council that we had discussed. And during that time, the discussion was, do we want to sign a long-term deal? And most, if not all, council people were against that because as we all know, technology changes not even annually, but every 6 months. So there was a bit of a concern at that point in time. Mr. Councilman Cahoon, you were going to say something?
Yeah, Mr. President, if I may, I probably spent about 15 to 20 hours with the contract itself, both in reading it and going back and forth with Attorney Capizzo and Mayor and Mr. Marcello. I had the opportunity to sit in a number of meetings with Green and the Mayor and a number of other folks as we kind of talked through some of that timeline that the Mayor had laid out. My concern going into this, because from the beginning, I was essentially on board with the idea of the deal itself, given that this is something that's a little bit out of the comfort zone of, a municipality. I really wanted to make sure that that contract was as airtight as it could be. I feel fairly confident that that contract is as airtight as it can be. In addition to the number of provisions that Attorney Capizzo pointed out, language changes that have been made. Another issue that I had was with regard to the ability of Green to reassign the contract, which basically means to sell the contract to another company should they want to do so. That is something that typically the federal government, state government does not allow. So in working with Attorney Capizzo, I know that Green has agreed to include some additional language in there so that, we don't wind up with a company that's not able to do that. Either is not in financial standing or is excluded from doing business with the government. That's one example. As the Mayor pointed out, being able to bring a term into a 12-month term is really kind of a unique opportunity for a government entity. There aren't many agreements that I've worked on in my time where an offeror or a contractor will be willing to enter into a one-year agreement. Essentially, what we've asked them to do is to give us a trial run and see how it goes. That to me tells me that they're confident in the service that they will be able to provide and that we will be able to see tangible results at the end of that 12-month period, so that if we decide to take another step in the future, we'll have some data along those lines. So because Green was willing to make a lot of the changes that I pointed out that I felt were maybe potentially, I don't want to say dangerous, but at least volatile. And because they are willing to, really enter into a 12-year, let's call it what it is, essentially a tryout period, a 12-month tryout period, rather. I feel confident that this is something that is good for the city of East Providence. So that's where I stand.
So, Councilman, you just brought up an interesting point. You had mentioned that there was a language change in the contract. Was that from the previous contract we had received from the last meeting?
Yeah, I don't know.
On June 3rd?
And going back and forth with Attorney Capizzo last night or the last couple of days, he indicated that Green would be willing to change the language. Specifically, I pointed out to the language in Section 10.1 with regard to assignability. I did not like the fact that Green could reassign that contract unilaterally and without the approval of the buyer, us, because I did not like the potential for an assignee to be somebody who couldn't handle the project or was incapable of doing it, or was excluded from doing business with the government. So Attorney Capizzo sent back the language to me, and I believe the Mayor shared that with us by way of an email thread last night with regard to the change that would be made to that language to ensure that that did not happen.
Question.
Roberts, yeah.
I like the idea of just a year commitment or thereabouts. Not too much damage could happen. What happens at the end of the year? What will we be asked to do? What will there be I don't know who I'm asking this to, either Mr. Capizzo or Green or.
I can answer that, Councilman.
Okay.
please back me up. At the end of the contract, if they don't deliver the deliverables or have a project online, we walk away and no harm, no foul to us, and we can go out to bid for another developer.
And what if they do deliver and we like it? Are we then going to be asked to go long-term?
Well, then that'll be up to us. I mean, it's a year contract. If we get savings in the first year and it's demonstrated savings, I assume that they'll come back to us and they'll say, you know, okay, now that we've demonstrated savings and we've demonstrated we have a project online that will benefit the city and we know what your usage is and what your credits are buying, you know, now how about entering into a longer term, you know, deal? I will say this, this is unique. I'm not aware of any other municipality that has such a short-term lease agreement. I was very uncomfortable with a 40-year agreement, which was originally proposed at one point because of the volatility of the energy market. No one predicted that gas at this point would be $1.75. It hasn't been $1.75 since I was in high school. So obviously energy costs are low. Obviously electric cost production is now low. But we don't know, you know, 20 years from now or 10 years from now or at the end of this, what's going to happen. So, you know, it could go back up and the savings that we can realize might be greater or there might be less. We don't know what technology is going to look like. So really this is really just a, you know, putting a toe in the water, frankly.
Just so you know, Attorney Marcello, when I was in high school, gas was 69 cents a gallon.
That's because you had a Model T.
Yeah. My final question, if Mr. Capizzo is still listening, could you clarify for the public, do you have any relationship legally with Green? Are you hired to represent the city of East Providence?
No, I do not represent Green. I actually have negotiated agreements with Green on the other side. I represent the city of Woonsocket, which is negotiating with Green. I also represent the Catholic Diocese, which has negotiated with Green as well.
Second thing is not working again.
I do not.
Gotta be kidding me.
President's a little upset at technology. So basically, the point I'm trying to make is you were hired to look out for the interest of East Providence. And
that is correct. The mayor and Attorney Marcello brought me in based on my experience in negotiating these types of agreements and being familiar with these types of agreements to protect the citizens of East Providence, to protect the city council and the public in this agreement. And that's what the intent of all of the changes that we made to that agreement is. And I am confident, as Councilman Cahoon referenced, I am confident that those protections are in place for this year agreement. To your question as to what happens once they deliver, I think we revisit that. It's contingent on Green to show us that there's savings to be had by the city of East Providence, and that they do that during the year if they're able to come online, and then we reassess. Obviously, they'll be looking for a longer-term agreement. Those longer-term agreements are usually tied to lease agreements, which usually span, as Council President Brito said, 25 to 30 years. So they usually tie the net metering credit agreements to those agreements. If you can think, a developer wants to have an off-taker for the life of the lease that they have for a solar facility.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just for clarification here, we haven't. I'm looking at the contract that I have from a previous meeting. Am I wrong by looking at this contract and there's another contract that was released last night?
Councilman Brito, Council President Brito, Christian Capizzo, for the record. So there were several revisions made to the agreement that were forwarded to the City Council whether through the solicitor, through the mayor, through Madam Clerk. Green proposed those revisions, initial revisions, I think on June, I think it was the 9th, based on comments made by the council members. I then received, those revisions were forwarded to the council.
Chris, can you hold off? Chris, can you hold off? Because I think the council person,
yeah, I can.
Left this thing. We did distribute the most recent contract. The most recent contract was distributed with the agenda last. When everyone got the agenda. I don't think other than some very minor technical changes, I don't believe there were any other substantive changes to that contract. But this is a different contract than what was before you 2 weeks ago, based upon Mr. Cahoon's.
And to the point that I made, about the specific language change that I requested. I requested that on Sunday or Monday or whenever it was that I actually was able to read the contract. So that I don't think that there's a switcheroo in place here. I think that that was, yeah.
There was absolutely not. I would not, and again, I required Chris to submit to me the final contract as of last Thursday. We distributed that contract Friday. I think there were some additional comments, as you indicated, Councilman Cahoon, and then we made very small changes. But this is not. I just want to make it clear, this is not the contract that you had 2 weeks ago. It's actually much more improved, basically because of the hard work of the council they put into it and looking at it.
And the revised, the revision that we received at the end of last week contained red line changes indicating the changes, the additions that had been made, the amendments that had been made since our last discussion.
Correct, and that was included with the docket, correct. Council President, I think you're back. Can you hear us? You froze again. Council President?
Madam Clerk, could you text the Council President and see what his status is? I think he's good now.
Yeah.
Can you hear us, Mr. President?
Muted.
Hello?
We hear you.
Okay.
Council President, I think the question you had before you got off was the contract that's before you now. Is it the same as the contract that you got 2 weeks ago? No. You were just you were distributed with the council packet a new contract or revised contract based upon the comments that were made in the interim 2 week period. So
when was that distributed?
That was distributed on Friday when you got the council packet. And since that distribution, which was on Friday, Councilman Cahoon had I'm going to call it a minor technical issue, a technical change, which was proposed to them on Sunday, I believe Sunday or Monday morning, which they agreed to. So there was just a little more of a minor change, and it had to do with the assignment.
Oh, that's what I'm referencing. That change then that was made afterwards.
Yes.
And that was what, 10? You said? Did I hear you say 10.1?
Section 10.1, yeah, specific to the assignability.
Okay. Article 10, prior written consent. All right. So I did have a question. Attorney Capizzo.
Yes.
Let me just make sure I locate it. All right. I'm on page 6 of the contract. It's 3.3. Interconnection requirements. And it states here, seller shall be responsible for all costs, fees, charges, and obligations required to connect the renewable energy facility to the EDC, including but not limited to fees associated with the system upgrades and operations and maintenance charges. Can you explain that to me?
Sure, and I'll let Green chime in as well if they want. But what that relates to is the commercial operations. So Hannah had mentioned when a system has to come online, it has to be interconnected through National Grid. There has to be an interconnection service agreement. It has to be able to tie into the system. So here it's saying that Green is responsible for all of those obligations and all of those costs. The city bears no responsibility for those costs. So basically, think of it, Council President Brito, as they pay basically to turn the system on. They pay for any upgrades if they've got to put in transmission lines, inverters, whatever it takes to turn that system on. It's their responsibility, not the city's.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Correct. So essentially, this is Hannah from Green. Essentially, the city has to pay for nothing. We are 100% responsible for all of the expenses associated with developing, permitting, building, interconnecting, and operating and maintaining all of our renewable energy projects. And the city will receive a savings from those projects that we own and operate.
I'm liking what I'm hearing. My only issue or concern that I would have at this moment is with respect to the 1 year contract and when that contract will be signed. And we don't know when that contract could be signed right now. It's a shot in the dark, if I'm not mistaken. Although we're saying December 2020, it could be January 21, or it could be even further down the road.
So that simply has to do with the just the timeline of the project. We are shooting to get the project online much earlier, but I would like to just reiterate the fact that a 1 year agreement like what we're proposing to you is very, very unique. We are not aware, besides the other contracts that we've done similar to this, we are not aware of any other example of a short-term contract like this done in the state of Rhode Island, simply because they're, as it was mentioned earlier, banks and financing agencies want to see a longer-term contract in order for them to be comfortable. So we are offering this. We're taking a risk. We are highly confident in the fact that the city will be satisfied with the savings program. You will recognize true benefits from this, and you will want to enter into a longer-term agreement. And part of the reason that we are making this very unique offer to the city is because we've seen over the past 3 years or so the city go out to RFP twice. We actually won both of those RFPs, but we've seen the city just be generally uncomfortable with the contract and also kind of the process. And so this is the best possible way that we can show you and really give you a taste for how meaningful and easy it is to save money through this program. It is a guaranteed savings program, which means that no matter what happens to the price of electricity, you are getting a guaranteed savings from net metering credit rate. So if the rate goes up, your savings goes up. If it goes down, the savings goes down, but it is a fixed percentage of savings. So there is truly no risk. And so this is, the 1 year contract is unique to green, but it is not unique to us in that we've carried out successful 1 year contracts with several other entities in the state. So we're not aware of any other companies that offer this, but we think that it's a very real way for you guys for the city to test the waters and understand how meaningful these savings truly can be.
Thank you for that explanation. Any other further comments from the council? Somebody has some humming song. I mean, am I new?
I do hear it, Council President. It might be somebody's phone receiving text messages that is viewing Zoom on their phone.
Sorry, Madam Clerk, can you repeat that?
Oh, the buzzing that you hear might be somebody who is viewing the Zoom meeting on their phone and they're receiving notifications or text messages.
Okay. Wouldn't they be on mute?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. Again, any further comment, questions, concerns from the council? If not, forever hold your peace. And this is on for a vote for a resolution for a 1 year period. And just so we all know, the 1 year period is initiating from the time that Green LLC is able to go online. Okay, would anyone like to make a motion at this point in time?
So, Mr. President, I'll move to approve the resolution to allow the mayor to enter into the contract.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for the mayor to enter into a contract, a 1 year contract that is with Green Energy Development LLC regarding renewable energy savings. Would anyone like to second that motion?
I will second that.
And we have a second by Councilman Rodrick. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call vote?
Yes, Council President. Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Nay.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
I want to agree with it and say aye. I'm willing to try this out for one year period of time and see how it works, and see what type of savings, at least test the waters and see what type of savings that is offered to the city. So my vote is aye. With that being said, the ayes have it. Any other discussion at this point in time? I would like to thank Attorney Capizio for his time and explanation, Green Development as well, and Mayor for all explaining the direction or the new direction that the city could be going forward in with respect to renewable energy. Thank you all. Madam Clerk, may we proceed to the next item, please?
Sorry, I just have to disable talking to a few people before we move forward. Okay, the next item is introduction of ordinances. The first is ordinances vetoed by the mayor, city council consideration and possible vote to override sustained veto of the mayor of an ordinance and amendment of chapter 2 of the revised ordinances of the city of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Administration, as transmitted by the mayor on June 12, 2020.
Mr. President, didn't we already vote to accept the mayor's veto in a previous item?
No.
Marcel?
No. So you just accepted. You didn't accept. You just accepted the message. You didn't accept the.
Raj, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
So can I explain this a little bit, because this is a little different?
Yeah, please do, because I was on the same page with Councilman Cahoon as well.
This is somewhat historic, and it's a somewhat historic and somewhat difficult. So the council passed an ordinance. It was vetoed by the mayor under the charter. Section 3.3-6, it automatically gets put back on your docket for you to take a vote to override. If you want to override the veto, meaning that you want the ordinance as passed, originally passed by you, you have to vote yes, and it has to be by 4 affirmative votes. If you want to sustain the veto, in other words, you want the veto to stand and the ordinance not to become law, you must vote no. And there's no tabling. You've got to take a vote, because obviously the legislature might have passed this once, and so it gives you an opportunity to take a second bite at the apple. However, given the message that the mayor sent, and I guess the conversations, the kind of consensus that this ordinance is going to come back to you in an amended form, and to take into account some of the changes that the mayor had suggested, and Councilman Morato had also suggested regarding extending the time. The motion is shall the council pass this ordinance notwithstanding the mayor's veto, and you need to vote no if you want to sustain the veto. If you want the veto to be upheld, to be overridden, you must vote yes. So it's the reverse. A no really is a yes vote. A yes vote is a no vote. Does that make sense?
So to that end, Mr. Marcello, if nobody moves to try to pass it over the veto, then it simply dies anyway, correct?
Well, I believe that the ordinance, the charter requires you to take a vote. I don't think you can just ignore it. I think you have to take a vote, because it says the council, no later than its next regularly scheduled meeting, shall approve the ordinance by the affirmative votes of at least 4 of its members. So I don't think a tabling is appropriate. We're going to have to address that in a charter change or a rules change. I think you need to take a vote one way or the other. That's my legal opinion. Okay. Other charters handle it differently, but the charter is a little vague in the matter.
So someone with every intention of voting against it has to move to put it out for vote.
Yeah. The motion will. The question. The only question before this body is: Shall the ordinance vetoed by the mayor become law notwithstanding the veto? And you need to vote a no vote to sustain the veto. Correct.
Can I clarify something
Yes.
real quick? I know this just got a little confusing for anyone out there that's listening to this section of this meeting. So, this ordinance was put into place to give the council a little bit more time in reviewing the budget. And it had passed at the last council meeting, second passage. But due to unforeseen events such as this pandemic and not knowing what the state of the budget, the state's budget process, and the school department facing the same issues, kind of an agreement to let this ordinance die and bring it back at the next council meeting with a revision, which would be that the administration can request additional time of the council due to unforeseen events. So this was something that was not expected, but it was due to this pandemic, it was a good test. And so we have to add a little bit more language to this ordinance, which is a great ordinance. So, and to clarify, Mr. Marcello, by voting no, we are upholding the veto, correct?
Correct. And I sent the memo to the council today with the exact language. Madam Clerk, you might want to read that because this is a procedural matter. So if if the clerk will just read in the motion that you'll be voting on, and it'll be very clear. It's a little different because a yes is really a no and a no is really a yes. So if you want to sustain the veto,
Okay.
if you want to do that,
Sure. Would you like me to read it right now, Council?
it's up to the council president. I think it would be helpful.
Yes,
That's
please.
what I was asking. Yep. Okay. So let's see. The one, it's dear members of the
Bold
city.
language. Yep.
I'm sorry.
It's in bold language in the memo that I sent to you.
Yes. So it says, Council, do you want me to read the whole letter, or do you want me just to read what this city solicitor is asking?
No, I don't think it's necessary to read the entire letter. Just
Just the
read the
motion.
bullet points. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So it says to approve the ordinance as originally passed by the city council, at least 4 council members need to vote aye on the following question. Shall the ordinance and amendment to Article 7, Section 2-283 be approved, notwithstanding the disapproval and veto of the mayor? To uphold the veto and thus support the mayor's position on it, council members should vote no. As noted above, at least 4 affirmative votes are necessary for the council to override the veto. Therefore, a no vote is a vote against passage of the ordinance as originally prepared.
So Councilman Cahoon, to your point, it's really not even a motion. It's just a vote, and you just take the vote. You don't have to move it at all. That's the question that's now before you, because the charter automatically puts a veto back before you because you guys passed it in the first place.
So how do we initiate the vote? Move on.
The clerk read the question before the council. Is that no? Is that so? Yeah.
Okay.
So the clerk could just, president and council could ask that the roll just be called
Based on the question that's now before you.
based
Correct.
on the question.
Now, I will say this. Our rules probably need to be amended to kind of deal with this in a little bit more clear fashion in the future. Hopefully, I don't know how many vetoes or mayor vetoes will be exercised by this mayor or other mayors, so we'll probably have to clarify that, but we're all learning as we go along. That's why I said this is kind of historic. But I think this is the best way to handle it under the rules that we currently have now.
So why do we want to make vetoes any easier?
Say that again?
So why do we want to make vetoing things any easier?
Well, as sitting here as your council, as the legislative branch right now, I would agree with you. You don't want to make it too easy. Go ahead. Madam Clerk, could you put the question before the board, please, one more time?
Yes. The question is, shall the ordinance and amendment to Article 7, Section 2-20, Section 2-283 be approved, notwithstanding the disapproval and veto of the mayor?
Again, so to sustain the veto, you vote no. If you want to overrule the veto, you vote yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the floor?
Make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Morado. Would anyone like to second that motion?
I thought we were simply voting on the question. I thought there was no motion.
I don't think you need a motion, but
Yeah, we don't need a motion. The clerk should just call the roll of the council.
Oh,
correct.
okay.
That's the way I understood it. I don't.
Need a roll call vote?
Roll call vote then.
Okay, roll call, Council President?
Yes, please.
Okay. Councilman Cahoon.
Nay.
Councilman Morado.
Nay.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Nay.
Councilwoman Souza.
I apologize. I'm not sure what the vote is.
This is a vote to overrule the mayor on the veto of the budget ordinance. A no vote sustains the veto. A yes vote overrides the veto.
Councilwoman, did you want me to read the question for you?
Please.
Okay. So the question is, shall the ordinance, an amendment to Article 7, Section 2-283, be approved, notwithstanding the disapproval and veto of the mayor?
If I could help, then the no vote allows us to bring back the corrected version of what we want.
Right. Okay. I get that now.
So it's kind of a backwards thing. No means yes, yes means
right.
no. So the no vote allows us to fix it. That's just
So, Mr. Solicitor, can let's go with the vote first.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Souza.
Nay.
And Council President Brito.
Nay.
So the veto is sustained by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor, can you prepare something and write it to clarify that so someone on the council could sponsor that?
I did.
So going forward, we have it on the books for
I
clarification.
did send you a memo. I'm going to prepare a proposed rule change for the council rules of procedures as well. The current rules don't have a provision how to bring back a veto like what we just did. Happy to do that.
Madam Clerk, I have a question. Did the my docket item regarding the to enter into a contract with Green finish, or is that still on the docket to be done?
Sure, I can answer that. Your resolution for the authorizing the mayor to enter into a one-year agreement with Green Energy Development regarding renewable energy savings, it did pass 3-1.
3-1. Ms. City Solicitor, may I vote, cast my vote since we haven't closed out the meeting still?
Without objection of the body, yes, you can. If the council president, without objection of the rest of the body, if you want to cast a vote for 9.
No, I don't have any objections to it. Yep. Does anyone else from the council have any objections to Councilwoman's vote?
Okay, so on resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a one-year agreement with Green Energy Development LLC regarding renewable energy savings, I vote in the affirmative on that item, docket item.
Okay.
Let it be set for the record.
Record notated. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Okay, Council President, I'm sorry about that confusion about the veto, but we'll get better at it as we go along. But that's the best way we could handle it at this moment.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so are we cleared on that?
I think we're done. We're going on to order.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Okay. The next ordinance is, we're moving on to ordinances for second passage, public hearing. If you're following along, page 6 on the docket. And it's an ordinance, an amendment of Chapter 18 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This is reflecting Section 18-269. The location is Westwood Avenue and Hope Street, sponsored by Council President Brito.
So I had a meeting with the residents in that area last night, primarily those who will be immediately affected by this stop sign, and we all came to the conclusion that it would be not conclusive to have this stop sign. So I'm going to ask and request to remove this from the ordinance for second passage and strike it from the council docket.
Council President.
So you can proceed to the next item, please.
Okay. Thank you, Council President. The next ordinance is an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 18 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This is Section 18-247. The location is Rice Avenue, a one-way modification, and this is sponsored by Councilman Cahoon.
We talked about this last time. So it's a one-way. This puts a do not enter sign very close to the end of the road. So essentially the one-way is preserved, but residents can get up onto their street without turning out onto Pawtucket Avenue.
Mr. Councilman, would you like to form that in a motion so we could vote and proceed?
Yes. Thank you, sir. I move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. We have a second. We have a motion to by Councilman Morado, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. Roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Council President. Councilman Cahoon.
Excuse me.
Aye.
There's public comment. Yes.
Second passage. You're right. Is there anyone on for public comment at this time, Madam Clerk?
I see nobody for public comment at this time.
So at this point I'm sorry.
Actually, there is Miss LaRoche. She has her hand up. I don't know if she's wanting to talk about this specific, but
it has to be specifically to this line item. So I'll ask the question first. If she still has her hand raised, and then we can allow her in. Anyone from the public wishing to speak for or against this ordinance, please raise your hand and we'll allow you in to speak for or against this. If anyone's hand is raised, Madam Clerk, please allow them in the conversation. If her hand is raised, please allow her in.
That would be Miss LaRoche's hand is still up.
Okay, please allow her in then.
Okay. Miss LaRoche, you're unmuted at this point. If you'd like to speak on this particular ordinance, we are having a public hearing at this moment.
Tim, I think you have to unmute her.
Yeah, I did that. She has to do it on her end.
Ms. LaRoche, you're muted.
Ms. LaRoche, unmute yourself. If you go to the bottom left of your screen, there's a microphone with a red arrow. You need to click on that so the.
There she goes. She's good. You're good, Miss LaRoche. You're on.
Good to see you all. Good to see you all. I just put everything that was important. It has to actually do with Riverside. It's all in the comment section. Did you all read it?
Is this pertaining to the ordinance that we have currently that we're discussing?
I apologize. It is not. I was just participating in the meeting in general.
Okay, so
we'll note your comments for the record on the other item, but we're just talking about this ordinance that's before us now, Ms. LaRoche.
Can you please just look at them before you end the meeting?
Certainly.
Yeah, sure. Did you have that on there for some time?
Yes, I typed it in. I had it all written and timed and everything for public comment. I actually wrote it out and timed it. But
did you have it on in a timely manner, or was it? Why don't we do this? You're the only one on. If we don't mind, let's proceed with the votes that we have and with the agenda that we currently have. And then, if you don't mind hanging on, if there's something you'd like to state real quickly at the end.
Perfect. It is important.
Okay. If that's okay, if that's all right, the council, is that all right?
Yeah. I don't see anything on mine, but maybe that's because I'm on my mobile device.
Yeah.
This is actually, it was listed under the Q&A. It was copied and pasted, and it was at 7:12 that it was posted.
So I'm sorry?
It was posted at 7:12 by Ms. LaRoche. I think that was after the public comment time expired, since we had it early on.
So why don't we do this? Let's proceed in the manner of what we have on the docket at this point in time. And if the council chooses at the end to listen in on the comment, we could take the comment at the end. But right now, just for argument's sake, I'd like to move the meeting along. So right now we have, where do we stand with this ordinance right now with respect to a vote?
There's a motion for approval.
Okay, do we have, is it seconded as well, the
Yes,
motion?
we have a first by Councilman Cahoon, a second by Councilwoman Souza.
Okay, so can we proceed with a vote, please?
Do you want to formally close public hearing?
Okay, public comment is now closed at this point in time with respect to ordinance amendment chapter 18 revised ordinance of the city of East Providence, Rhode Island, amended entitled Vehicles and Traffic, section 18-247, location at Rice Avenue, one-way modifications. Public comment is now closed. Let's proceed with a vote, please.
Yes, Council President. Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye. Thank you. Next ordinance, please.
Next ordinance is an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 3 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended entitled Animals, Section 3-42 pertaining to dog parks in East Providence, sponsored by Council President Brito.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to give the option to the public if they have any discussion on this or would like to speak for or against this ordinance, please do so. Again, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this dog park ordinance, please speak your mind at this point in time. Otherwise, I will be closing public hearing and opening up the discussion for council. So public hearing is now closed. With respect to this dog park, again, a second passage just entitles the authority that the dog officer or animal control officer has with respect to looking over animals that are and issuing fines. We went over that last week. If anybody has any questions regarding that, I'd be more than happy to answer those questions on the council. If not, if anybody would like to make a motion to proceed.
President.
Yes, sir.
President, I think there has been a lengthy discussion, and the animal control officer addressed this as well at the last meeting. I would move approval.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Rodrick for approval. Anyone like to second that motion regarding animals, entitled animals? Anyone like to second that motion?
Second.
All right, we have a second on the motion by Councilwoman Souza. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Council President Brito.
Aye. Next item, please. Thank you.
Next item is an ordinance, an amendment of Chapter 18 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This is Section 18-269, Vincent Avenue of Brown Street, sponsored by Councilman Cahoon.
Yep. Stop signs going both ways, east and west on Vincent and Brown.
Oh, it's a public hearing.
This on for second passage, so
Yes.
if it's on for second passage, which it is for public hearing. Anyone from the public wishing to speak for or against this ordinance, please speak up. Anyone from the public wishing to speak for or against this ordinance, please speak up. Otherwise, public hearing is now closed. And at the pleasure of the council, would anyone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve, Council President.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman Souza. Would anyone like to second that motion?
Second.
Second.
Who seconded that again? I'm sorry.
Councilman Cahoon.
Councilman Cahoon?
Okay.
Oh, okay. We have a seconded by Councilman Cahoon. Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morato.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Council President Brito.
Aye, thank you. So we don't need to reconvene in executive session. However, we do if the council chooses to allow Ms. LaRochin to speak her mind of public comment. I'm not exactly sure. Do we have what she wants to speak about?
Actually, Council President, if you don't mind, Solicitor Marcello has lost connection to the meeting, so he sent me a couple of text messages.
Okay.
He was saying on item 2A, the ordinance on Westwood Avenue, that
Yes.
you would need to formally table since it already passed once.
Okay, well, I don't want to table. I want to remove it from the docket. So
You want to, yeah,
I just want to entirely remove it. Do I need a vote on that?
I believe, let's see, hold on just a moment.
Why don't we do this as opposed to holding the meeting up? If we don't all mind voting to,
He did say you must vote.
okay. I was going to say, if we don't mind, if we could just vote then, if that's the case, that we remove, okay, the ordinance and amendment of Chapter 18 for revised ordinance of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Section 18-269. Location is at Westwood Avenue and Hope Street. This is on for vote. I had entered this into for public comment. No, I haven't. So because of second passage, is there anyone from the public choosing to speak for or against this ordinance? Please do so now. Otherwise, I will close public comment. Public comment is now closed. With that being said, I am requesting from the council to remove this ordinance from the docket at this point in time, to eliminate it in its entirety. Would anyone
President, I would so move that the item be removed from the docket.
Thank you, Councilman Rodrick. Would anyone like to second that motion?
A second.
Thank you, Councilman Cahoon. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Council President. Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrick.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye, thank you. Now, with that being said, we're on the verge of adjourning at this point in time. Anyone have any objections to having? We have one public comment that was on apparently. Anyone having any objections to allowing her to come in to speak? Do we know first and foremost what she's on for?
Yes, Council President, I do know. She is wanting to speak about cultivating the beach, presumably to extend behind Rose Larissa Park.
All right. Want to give her a couple of minutes? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Council President, is that by vote? To keep in line with
I guess she wants to just speak to the council directly about her concerns. We don't have to comment. We don't have to comment during this public comment. So, well, we know because of public comment, we don't have to. If somebody chooses to do so, they can. You want to allow Ms. LaRoche in, please?
Yes, Ms. LaRoche, you're in the meeting. You're on.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So what it was that the old Ray's Market, I'm eventually moving back to Riverside, okay? And the graffiti and stuff like that is like what comes to mind is broken windows theory, which actually is a criminology. Ricardo, do you know the broken windows theory? I wrote it down. I have it written.
I'm aware of it.
Can you read it for me? Do you still have it, honey? Because
I cannot access your comments via that. I'm using my cell phone for this meeting.
I can do it if it's okay.
Please, Nate.
Okay, yes.
Can you just read it for me?
I'll do that right now. This is from Ms. LaRoche at 7:12 p.m. As we are working to cultivate the beach, presumably to extend behind Rose Larissa Park, Ray's Market has been off the grid so long, boarded up with graffiti and also the stone wall. Broken windows theory is a criminological theory that states that visible signs of crime, antisocial behavior, and civil disorder create an urban environment that encourages further crime and disorder, including serious crime. Fun fact, BWT had an enormous impact on police policy throughout the 1990s. Perhaps most notable in New York City, Transit Chief of Police William Bratton used this theory initiative with plainclothes officers. By the time he resigned in 1996, felonies were down almost 40% and homicide rates were halved. My Construction Networks reported years ago that the building, Ray's Market, was condemned because there was sewage and excrement in the basement. Maybe we can turn it into a beach store with showers and paid parking. And she gave us a little happy face, smiley face.
I worked really hard on that. Thank you.
I didn't want to leave anything out.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. It's my pleasure to participate.
Okay. Any comment from the council? No.
Thank you, Ms. LaRoche. That's, any ideas are always good ideas and something that's worth looking at. And I am very familiar with the broken window.
Even if you pass along the information, like what's going on there, because the broken windows area, if nobody cares, then nobody cares. And it gets worse and worse and worse. And you don't want to do that. We have a lot of new residents in there. We have property down there. The village is even, there's no more Section 8 people allowed in the village. And so I felt scared. And when I feel scared, that's a red flag. I feel scared looking at that building. That's a red flag for me. And I know that's your area, right, Ricardo?
Yes, and I thank, again, I don't have any further comments. Thank you for that. And just so for the record, I welcome all types of people into the village.
Just to be in your bonnet.
Mr. President, just one brief comment. So Ms. LaRoche has some more information. She may have it already, but I know that the owners of that building, that property, they had contacted me and put them in touch with City Hall there. Without getting into all the details, there's a legal question going on between the house and the business, and they can't do much with it. They're trying to work it out with private matters, and it's nothing the city can do right now, but they have been in touch with zoning and building inspectors, and it's a family situation that hopefully, you're right, that it gets worked out and helps that area somewhat.
Thank you, Councilman Rodrigues.
If there are no other comments from anyone, I'd move adjournment.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman. Would anyone like to second that motion?
Second.
I will second.
We have everybody second that motion. Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Council President. Councilman Cahoon.
Aye.
Councilman Morado.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rodrigues.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
And Council President Brito.
Aye. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Good night.
Safe
all.
out there.
Everybody have a good night.
All right. Good night.
Get out of here. Get out of here.